Hey all, welcome back. This is Dino the Ops Guy, and this is Production Management and Practice, or Stardew Production Management 101. I say Production Management and Practice because, well, we don't start from a textbook or any, sort of part of the literature. We start with what happens in the real world in practice. And it's called Stardew Production Management or Stardew Valley Production Management 101 because, well, the practice that we start in is Stardew Valley. So I think it works out really well. Certainly, it has a lot of nuances that do mimic a real production environment. So I'm happy about that, and it's something you can do on your own time if you want to. You don't have to go and find the factory that I'm talking about. It's on your computer. So this is episode 56, and from the standpoint that there are 55 episodes before that. If you want to understand the story from the beginning, each one represents essentially a day in Stardew Valley. So you can actually go through day 1 through 56, which we are at today. If you prefer to take the educational route and sort of go by topic, just bounce around to whatever topics make sense. You don't actually have to see what's happening and why now is the time to plant corn or whatever the case. I am the strategy guy and essentially the executive view of what goes on in operations. And we have on the floor Av, and there's a picture of Av up in the corner. And essentially, one of the ways that we communicate is really just sort of the upper management objectives. And if there's anything strategic wise that's worth noting, I will do that. The strategy really is to finish all the bundles and to complete the community center. And there's no outstanding bundles that summer is really disposed for. Once we get in the fall, that's going to change. But for now, it's really just maintain the coffers so that when we get a chance, we can spend them as fit. Sort of follow the best revenue path. And Av is really good at that part. But we still have this little interaction. It just makes sense to sort of be on the same page, if you will. So today, harvest the crops. I know you'll notice I didn't say water the crops because this is the end of summer. So the only crops that we would really water would be anything that carries on to fall. So corn and sunflower seeds. And we've kind of decided that where any corn that isn't under sprinkler already, we're probably not going to continue. So, I mean, if Av wants to water something, that's great. But there's no obligation there. I'm going to defer to Av on how to go forward with that one. Pet the animals and process the animal products. This is an even day, so we're going to get goat's milk today. Check the traveling cart for red cabbage. That's the sort of the most straightforward way to get red cabbage is hopefully you'll find it at the traveling cart, and that shows up Fridays and Sundays. Today being one of the Sundays. So, and then if there's any free time, feel free to forage. Mine, you're really good at deciding most of that. So that's just sort of a lineup for Av. But now I'm going to turn it over in earnest to Av. Thanks, Dino. Yeah, we're back, and the weather tomorrow is going to be beautiful. And today, the spirits are in good humor. So we got a lot going for us, and we know how to make bread now. That's awesome. So the moonlight jellies, I never pronounce. That's gonna happen tonight. So essentially, I'll sort of chop before and chop after, so you don't have to watch me going around saying hi to everybody in the village and or everyone in the valley, I guess, and then watch all these jellies and everyone's hearts come up. And yeah, we'll just skip over that. We'll just look at the production side of things. Hi, meow. We got some maple. We got actually a few things. Blackberry. So we're going to sort things out. We don't need that clump of grass. And because it's the end of summer, we don't need these poppies. Now, notice I picked all the honey before I picked the flowers, because if you do it in the other order, your honey gets degraded to wild honey. I don't know how that happens so quickly, but I figured that out the hard way. So we're going to not make those mistakes. And these mahogany trees are very valuable, but they're in the way. So we're going to get rid of them and move essentially some of our mahogany growth farther to the left there. So let's do that. Um, the idea being we don't want to obstruct the view of the kegs because if we don't know that a keg is ready, then we're losing time on it. So, okay, our pine trees are coming along. We're trying to make some more room here. And again, those pine trees are for our second mushroom farm. The idea is once those get mature, we'll plant immature ones between them. And because they'll be so close, the immature ones won't actually grow all the way up, but they will count for mushrooms. And it'll all sort of work out with the right packing factor, if you will. So we got a fair bit of corn. That's awesome. And gonna carry on. We're gonna move that sprinkler. Actually, there's a room for we got a lot of sprinklers here. That's good though. Sprinklers are a good thing. So try and move them. The idea is to move the plant area that we have that I just came from there into pumpkins, 5 by 10, and then the other areas being just a whole bunch of sprinkler sections. So we are getting some large milk now. That's good. Once we get one large goat milk and one large regular milk, we can finish a bundle, but we're still waiting on the goat milk. Oh, a new baby has hatched. We're going to call it Daffy Duck. How's that? So we got a new duck, little yellow puff over there. Daffy, 1 month old, less than 1 month old, 1 day old, I guess. So I think we're having problems here. Oh, we're inventory full. That's what's going on. We keep trying to pick up an egg, and it says, "Do you want to eat the duck egg?" No, I don't. Do you want to eat the duck egg? No, I don't. So it looks like we've pet all the animals based on our little gauge there. That's good. So we will turn over the inventory and go back into the coop and finish up. Yeah, we got some small goat, but not big goat milk. So, well, that takes care of that. We have all the animals done. Now we do have to close the door at the end. We don't want to miss that, but opportunity for that later. Now is much too early. So I've stopped in the journal. I've stopped counting some things. One of them being bait. I don't have a column for bait anymore. At least I don't use the column that I used to have for bait. Same thing with moss. Same thing with fiber. As you develop your ledger, and I talked about that very early on in the series. You're going to find modifications that make sense. So in the beginning, having enough fiber was very important. Having enough clay, of course, was very important. We still have clay on the ledger, but I'm probably going to dump it. I don't know that it makes sense to keep track. The only thing we're going to use, there's a couple things for clay I don't even remember other than another silo, which I may or may not get. Usually I can get through the season without a silo. So we made some preserve jar, and this is going to be where we're doing the fruit trees. The idea having three jars there, which will match the capacity of the trees. The trees do 1 plant per day, and the jars do essentially each one does 1 fruit every 3 days. So when you work it out, it works out to on average 1 per day per operation, if you will. So clearing up the farm is looking a lot better now. It was a bit raggedy before. I don't mind that actually so much. But once you see it clear, it clears your mind a bit. So you see more opportunities. So that's sort of that's the benefit of it. We got stuffing, which could be good. But I mean, we found the autumn harvest was good too. Artichoke, we're going to get as for seeds. We do want the rare seed because that'll be our second. We know that we want 2 for the fall. 1 to feed the Yoda statue. I don't know why we're feeding statues, but that's what we're doing. And then the other one because it's just a good return on our money. So we are clearing up. This is our last chance, at least this year, to clear up weeds and get mixed flower seeds. Otherwise, it's just regular mixed seeds. So if I see some weeds, sometimes I'll even go a bit out of my way to get them, especially if it's a decent bunch. That's kind of the plan here. Part of the plan was foraging, but part of the plan is if we see any weeds, that's part of it too. So we're going to make our way back towards town. We got a few things we can sell. And then maybe check in at the ocean. So let's sell first. And we don't have a lot on the agenda today. I mean, the farm is set up fairly well, so that's not going to be a big issue. sell off if those poppies actually do a decent return. I'm always surprised how much we get for the poppies. So let's head down to the ocean, do some foraging last time for the summer, and then we can. Oh yeah, they got the festival today, so they're setting that up. We won't get a chance to forage. Okay, so let's head up to the mines, but we're gonna go through the minecart system. Actually, we don't even go to the mines. We're gonna go back to the farm. What am I thinking? So clear things up. I find we're spending a lot of time sorting. We got to find a better way to sort things. And part of that may mean that we're just going to try and reduce the number of things we do, maybe, or better organize the chests is part of it, I'm sure. But I think there's a limit to what we can do as far as organizing chests to achieve what we want to achieve. So, yeah. Again, so we were saying earlier that we want to clear off as much as we can from the farm so that we can better see it, have a better understanding of organization, and opportunities tend to present themselves as we sort of look at clear space. So I think we got most of the weeds, so I think we're covered there. We can extend this line of pine trees and maple trees. We don't have any acorns on us. Otherwise, we could do the same for the oak. Given that these are fully mature, you might as well take them down. It doesn't hurt to have the extra wood, and it increases our visibility to some extent. But you can see the triple path that we're having there, the pine trees and then oak trees and then maple. So that's just going to be a good source of wood whenever we need it, as well as the wood that we can get in Cinder Forest or up near the train station. But or near the bus stop. There's a few places we can reliably get wood, but if we do need a lot, it's nice to have our own supply, especially for that hardwood. So we're going to reset this. It's good to get the coal. I like that. All the chicks and goats and cows are going and ducks are gone to bed, so we're going to close that up. Getting close to the point. Again, it ends a bit early tonight just because we go to the moonlight jellies. I forget what I was calling it before, but I never that never sticks with. It's not the type of name that I can remember for a long time. It's so all right. We're off to the mines now. We were thinking of the mines before, but the whole idea of the mines here is we don't have a lot of stone. So if we could do certainly some early floor mining, it doesn't hurt to get the copper, but this time we really are trying to get stone. That's as simple as that sounds. So we'll do that, and we're getting some geodes, and we're getting some coal. All good. And we don't. So there's no stone on this level. We're just gonna pass it by. Maybe head to another low level, earlier level 5. So, and for some reason, I don't know if it's in groups, like in every group of 5, whatever, but I find the lower number, the higher floors, if you will, tend to have a better rock to pickaxe ratio. So, anyway, the moonlight jellies have started. We're going to make our way down towards the beach, and we're just going to cut it off here and pick it up when this is done. Okay, we're back. Everyone's just so much happier now that we've seen the moonlight jellies. Concerned Ape does a good job of sort of making the festivals feel like festivals. So just sorting things. There's a lot of sorting to do, I find. So maybe we'll find a more efficient sorting technique. Maybe having a few more chests, the right chests kind of thing. Maybe standardize some of what we do so that we don't get a whole lot of extraneous stuff. That could be part of it too, but that's going to be for another season. We're just going to go forward. We made some torches, not really on purpose, but we knew that it was one of the options that could come out. So I'm going to light up this area around the trees. And if we have time, I'd love to make a preserve jar for the trees. Let's focus on getting these chanterelle, pickled chanterelles out. We only have 3 chanterelles to use, but we do have a morel. So let's use that morel. And we're going to use the fiber to make the tea saplings, and then we're going to just put a whole bunch of stuff in the shipper. Do we still? Yeah, we have time. So let's take the coal, and we're going to make one more preserves jar. We're not going to fill it with anything. We don't have a lot of time for that, but we don't need to do anything because that's going to be ready for the morning, where we know tomorrow is going to be a busy day, but it's going to be set. Now we have the 3 to match the capacity of the trees, so that's a good thing. So it's level 9 foraging that we've achieved. We can use a rain totem. I know in a lot of videos people use a lot of rain totems because you can really sort of get the advantage of not having to water stuff and having the right fish. I don't use them as much though. So it's going to be cloudy tomorrow. And it's going to be, the spirits are somewhat mildly perturbed. I'm concerned. Back to you, Dino. Okay, thanks, Av. Yeah, we got a fair bit done. Especially, you can see the end. Av was trying to get the stone so we can get the preserve jars, so that we could have the three preserve jars ready in front of the fruit trees. That's a good thing because it really does get busy on the first day of the month. You got some cleanup to do, you got some hoeing to do, you got some planting to do, and it kind of stacks up. So well done. As far as what we needed to do today, we did harvest the crops, we did pet the animals and process the animal products. We did check the traveling cart for red cabbage. There was no red cabbage, but there was rare seed. So we got our second rare seed, and that's going to work out well. We're going to plant those 2 this season. One of them we're going to feed to a statue. I don't know how that works, but somehow it does. And one of those we're going to use for just a return. So, and then there was some foraging and some mining. So it all worked out very, very well. Normally at this point at the end of the month or at the end of the season, in this case, I guess it's both, you try and do a review to figure out what's going on, but typically it takes a little time to get all the accounts together and to figure out what's going on. So usually you have the review like a month after the period ended, and people tend to forget what was going on, and I've always thought that was a bit counterproductive. So I've taken the time to do the review, and this last season for summer, we had a value added in production of 236,964 G compared to the 77,583 in the spring. And for foraging, 52,000, almost 53,000 foraging compared to 20,000 in the spring. In the farming, we had 143. What a big number that is compared to the 34, almost 35,000 in the spring. And for fishing, 12. It didn't seem like we were fishing a lot in the summer, honestly, but we felt like we were doing a lot more in the spring. But we still doubled our output for the summer. And that could just be the variety of the fish too. And then in mining, 28,000 versus 17,000. Not quite double, but again, you see that that step growth. And again, I don't think we did as much mining. It didn't feel like as much mining as we did in the first. Now, mind you, once we got to the 120th floor, our need for mining kind of fell off just a little bit. So from an operating expense standpoint, eating, we went from almost 2,000 to 35,600, not quite double. And that reflects the fact that early on in the game, energy was the bottleneck, and as we've moved on, energy is no longer the bottleneck. So our need for eating has dissipated a little bit, but there's a huge number there for build. We went from 6,000 G in the spring, spending on investment for infrastructure and for jars and for furnaces and for those types of things. But for the summer, we spent 130, almost 130,000. Just a huge number in infrastructure. So that was the big coop, the barn, the big barn, the deluxe barn. It's a lot of jars. It's a lot of kegs. It's a lot of. So and then for the bundles, it seems insignificant by comparison, but there was 1,000 G, about 1,000 G, that we went to just putting stuff in the bundles for the community center. And again, every time we put something, we're thinking, whoa, that's pretty expensive. Putting honey in there, that's it just doesn't add up to the rest. So it tends to be trivial. So we got to sort of continue with that. Um, so if you did have the ledger like I do, you'd be able to run numbers like that to see how you're doing in each category, how you're doing compared to the spring, and other cuts as well that are revealing that I'll get to. If you didn't have that type of accounting system, then you'd be stuck with what Stardew Valley gives you, and that's total earnings. And even that number looks good. We got 193 total earnings at this point. At the end of spring, we're at 42,000, almost 43,000. Really good numbers. You would have to compare those to other total earnings and other runs, etc. And again, that's not trying to game the system. That's not trying to pick up everything we can. That's a sort of a freebie. It really is production operations management theory, trying to get us down the road. But it really comes back, going back to the first part, it really comes back to if you're in operations management and if you're in production management, you have to have an understanding of what numbers matter, what numbers you're looking for, what numbers you're trying to push, and then get those numbers. If they don't exist in the ERP, or if they don't exist in some sort of accounting system, if they don't exist on some tracking sheet that someone has, then you got to get to that. You have to either get someone to track it or get out there on your own and get your own numbers. And I've often done that, and that's extremely valuable. It's really hard to. It's kind of like driving without your windshield clear, kind of thing. So this is kind of what makes a difference. I cut the numbers even a little bit more just to give us a view for what's happening and where we're going. And the returns look really good, really, in all the functions. But we knew that bee houses were going to be a really good return. So I graphed what we're getting out of bee houses, and it's kind of funny actually. So the money we got from harvesting wild honey, I think we only got one by the time the whole thing was done. Is like $100. It's you can barely see those little blue dots on the bottom. Now there were some times where we had wild honey on the bee house. We didn't harvest it until the poppies were ready, so that we'd get the poppy premium. But then you can see just the growth from the harvesting the poppy honey, and how much we're returning, and it's up into the 17,000 just for the summer. So now we can compare that. I tried to line up these zeros, and I tried to line up the sort of the 15,000 mark, so that these three all sort of follow the same metrics, if you will, the same heights, if you will. And the second one, it looks like we're making more in the coop, but really this is a bit deceiving from the standpoint there's two processes going on in the coop. The first one is the eggs coming out of the chicken. So you can see the first three wedges, the harvesting the eggs, harvesting large eggs, and harvesting duck eggs. And then you can see on top of that what happens once we convert those to mayo. So the conversion to mayo does not include the value from the small eggs, or from the eggs, because that's already on the graph. It just looks at the value added, considering that there was already some value in that egg. So that gives us a true feel that we made 20,000 in value added in the coops. So that kind of gives you a feel for what we're doing. And this is through three generations: the regular coop, the big coop, and we haven't even, sorry, this is only two generations. We haven't even gotten to the deluxe coop yet. And we'll get to that starting in next episode, I'm sure. And then the third one, I didn't put the title on. I should have. It's kegs. And the idea with kegs here, it doesn't look like, it's only like 14,000. It doesn't really compare that well to the other two. But when you really analyze it and think about what's going on, look at the slope. It's just look, it's a rocket. So yeah, we didn't get a whole lot out of our kegs early on in the summer. It took a while for us to get kegs and have them in place, and you can see the first thing we put in was a melon, and then after that we started getting into the hops and the pale ale, because the hops weren't available for the first half essentially. But once it started going, it's really, really going, and we have an inventory of stuff to put in to those kegs. So I'm just expecting kegs to just take off and explode. So, all good signs. Tomorrow is the first day of fall. Really excited about that. I know as much as it's going to be a lot of work for Av is really excited as well. It's going to be a new season. It's going to be new crops. It's going to be all kinds of new fun. So, and we'll get into new things as the complexity builds. So we see in the coop, we got the 2 layers. As we get more layers, call it the cask or other things that are going on. Uh, Operations matters more. Production management matters more. So stick with us. It's going to get more interesting and more fun. Hopefully you're getting a lot out of this. If there's anything we can do to make it more interesting and more fun right now, let us know in the comments. But other than that, we will see you hopefully next episode. And this is Dino the Ops Guy signing off.